The German shepherd's whimper cut through the Tennessee night like a blade. Michael Harrison stood in his driveway at 2:47 a.m., still wearing his desert fatigues, watching his canine partner pace before the old barn. Max hadn't touched his food in 3 days. "She's at summer camp, Michael." Rebecca appeared in silk pajamas, her voice sharp as winter frost. "Stop being paranoid." But Max knew, in Afghanistan, that whimper meant hidden explosives. Here, it meant something worse. The dog suddenly bolted, his bad leg dragging through wet October leaves. Michael followed, flashlight cutting through darkness, until Max stopped and dropped something at his feet. Emma's pink bracelet, the one she never removed. When exactly did she leave? Michael's voice carried the weight of 198 days of desert warfare. Rebecca's silence stretched like a taut wire. Max scratched frantically at the barn's locked door, and in that moment, Michael understood. His daughter wasn't at camp. The clock in his mind started counting. 3 hours until dawn. 3 hours until hypothermia would claim a 7-year-old girl. If she was still alive. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you're watching from now. Let's continue with the story. The house felt wrong. Michael had dreamed of this homecoming for 198 days, but now the living room seemed staged like a photograph from someone else's life. Everything was too clean, too perfect. Sarah's old reading chair had been replaced with white leather. The walls, once covered with Emma's crayon drawings, were now pristine beige. "You've redecorated," he said, setting down his duffel bag. Rebecca flipped her platinum hair over her shoulder. "Children make such messes. I thought you'd appreciate coming home to a proper house." Max limped past them, his shepherd's gait uneven. The dog was thinner than when Michael had left, ribs visible beneath dulled fur. His right eye had turned cloudy, and a fresh scar ran along his shoulder. Michael knelt beside his partner, running practiced hands over the injuries. "What happened to him?" "He's getting old," Rebecca said, examining her manicure. "Maybe it's time to consider—" Max's growl cut her short. Even wounded, even starving, the canine maintained his post between Rebecca and the hallway leading to Emma's room. Michael stood slowly. "Where are her things?" "Boxed in the attic." "Really, Michael, she's been so difficult. The camp counselors know how to handle problem children." Problem children. The words hit like shrapnel. Emma had never been difficult. She was sunshine in human form, all giggles and bedtime stories and butterfly kisses. Old Robert Mitchell appeared at the screen door, his weathered face creased with concern. The World War II veteran lived on the neighboring farm, close enough to share fence lines but far enough for privacy. "Heard you were back, son." Robert's eyes flicked to Rebecca, then back. "That dog of yours has been mighty busy at night. Seen him heading to the barn regular like?" Rebecca's smile tightened. "Mr. Mitchell's eyes aren't what they used to be." "Nothing wrong with my eyes, missus." "Fought at Normandy with these eyes." Max suddenly bolted toward the back door, pawing at the handle with desperate urgency. Michael had seen this before, in Kandahar, when Max detected an IED, in Helmand, when insurgents waited in ambush. The dog's instincts had saved dozens of lives. "The barn's locked," Rebecca said quickly. "I lost the key weeks ago. It's just full of old junk anyway." But Max wasn't listening. He threw his weight against the door, whimpering, his clouded eye weeping. When Michael opened it, the dog shot into the darkness, bad leg dragging through autumn mud. Michael grabbed his flashlight and followed. Behind him, Rebecca's heels clicked on the porch. "Michael, wait. You're being ridiculous. It's almost 3 in the morning." He turned, and something in his expression made her step back. "My daughter never took that bracelet off. Not for baths, not for bed. Her mother gave it to her." His voice carried the quiet authority of a man who'd led soldiers through hell. "So I'll ask one more time. When did Emma leave for camp? The October wind carried the scent of rain and rot from the barn's direction, where Max's frantic barking echoed through the hollow. The explosion came without warning. One moment, Michael was scanning the Afghan road through his scope. The next, his Humvee was airborne, flipping like a toy thrown by an angry child. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. The world turned upside down, then right side up, then upside down again. When the ringing stopped, Michael found himself pinned beneath twisted steel, his left leg screaming in protest. Fuel leaked nearby, its sharp smell mixing with dust and blood. Through the haze, he heard boots running, not toward him, but away. His squad was pinned down by sniper fire. "Stay back!" he shouted, knowing they'd die trying to reach him. The vehicle's weight pressed down, crushing air from his lungs. This was how it would end, not in a firefight, but trapped like an animal. Then Max appeared. The German shepherd shouldn't have been there. He'd been ordered to stay with the unit, but Max had never been good at following orders when Michael was in danger. The dog assessed the situation with those intelligent amber eyes, then began to dig. 90 pounds of muscle and determination, clawing through debris, ignoring the sniper rounds that kicked up dust inches away. "Max, no! Get back!" But the canine had already clamped his jaws on Michael's vest, pulling with every ounce of strength. The vest tore. Michael's shoulder dislocated with a wet pop. But inch by inch, Max dragged him free, even as shrapnel from a near miss tore into the dog's flank. They made it to cover just as the Humvee exploded. Later, in the field hospital, Michael held a satellite phone with his good arm while medics worked on his leg. On the small screen, Sarah's face appeared, drawn and tired but smiling. She'd lost more weight. The treatments weren't working. "Daddy!" 5-year-old Emma pushed into view, brown pigtails bouncing. "Is that your hero, doggy?" Michael angled the phone so she could see Max on the adjacent cot, getting stitches without sedation. The dog refused to be separated from him. "Yeah, baby. This is Max." "He saved you?" "He did." Emma's face scrunched in serious consideration. "Then he's family now. Mommy says family means forever." Sarah's hand appeared on screen, smoothing Emma's hair. Even through the pixelated connection, Michael could see how thin her fingers had become. "She's right. Max is family now. You'll bring him home?" "I promise." 6 months later, they kept that promise. Max adapted to civilian life like he'd been born to it, trading desert patrols for Tennessee hills. But it was his bond with Emma that surprised everyone. The war dog, trained to attack on command, became gentle as a lamb with the little girl. He walked her to the school bus each morning, waited by the window each afternoon. When Sarah taught Emma to ride in the old barn, Max trotted alongside, ready to catch her if she fell. "He understands her," Sarah said one evening watching them play in the yard. Her wheelchair couldn't navigate the uneven ground, but she could see from the porch. "Sometimes I think he understands her better than we do." The headaches had started by then, sudden, crushing things that left Sarah gasping. The doctors ran tests, found nothing. Stress, they said, the cancer treatments, but Rebecca, the new hospice nurse, had different ideas. "Could be the medication interactions," she suggested, adjusting Sarah's IV with practiced hands. Young, beautiful, with perfectly styled platinum hair even after a 12-hour shift. "I've seen it before. We could try adjusting the doses." Rebecca was so helpful, so caring. She stayed late, came early, brought Emma little gifts. When Sarah's episodes worsened, Rebecca was always there with a cool cloth and soothing words. "You're lucky to have her," the doctor said. "Good hospice nurses are hard to find." The last week was the worst. Sarah could barely stay conscious, but she fought for every moment of clarity. One evening she called Michael and Emma to her bedside. Max, as always, positioned himself at the foot of the bed. "Promise me," she whispered, her hand weak in Michael's. "Promise Max will protect her. Sarah, you're going to—" "Promise." Her eyes, though glazed with pain, held fierce determination. "He knows things. He sees things. Trust him." Michael promised. Sarah died on a Tuesday morning, Rebecca at her side. The nurse had tried everything, she said through tears. Sometimes God just called his angels home. At the funeral, Emma wouldn't leave Max's side. The dog, seeming to understand, never moved more than inches from the little girl. When she cried, he pressed against her. When she slept, he guarded her door. "She's lucky to have him," Rebecca said at the reception, placing a gentle hand on Michael's arm. "And you. This must be so hard. So soon before deployment." 4 months. That's all the time they had to grieve before orders came through. Another tour, critical mission, no deferrals. Rebecca offered to help. She'd grown so fond of Emma, she said, and Emma needed a woman's influence. The wedding was small, practical. Emma stood beside them in her pink dress, the bracelet Sarah had given her glinting in the courthouse lights. Max watched from the corner, his amber eyes never leaving the child. "I'll take good care of her," Rebecca promised as Michael prepared to deploy. "We'll be one happy family when you return." But Max wouldn't go near her. Not once. And when Michael hugged Emma goodbye at the airport, she whispered something that would haunt him through every firefight, every sleepless desert night. "Max doesn't like her, Daddy. He says she smells wrong." Children and their imaginations, Rebecca had laughed. Dogs and their quirks. Now, standing in the October darkness with that same dog frantically clawing at a locked barn door, Michael understood what he'd missed, what Sarah had tried to tell him, what Max had always known. Some angels have 4 legs, and some demons wear perfect makeup. The memory shattered as Max's barking reached a fever pitch. 2 hours until dawn. 2 hours to find out if his daughter was still alive. 2 hours to undo the terrible mistake of trusting the wrong person with the only thing that mattered. Michael gripped the flashlight tighter and prepared to break down the door. The barn lock shattered under Michael's boot like it was made of glass rather than steel. 20 years of military training channeled into one precise kick, fueled by a father's desperation. The door swung wide, and the smell hit him first. A nauseating cocktail of human waste, rotting food, and something else. Fear. The kind that soaks into wood and straw and never quite leaves. Max shot past him like a bullet, his injured leg forgotten in the urgency of the moment. The flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating abandoned horse stalls, rusted farm equipment, and hay bales stacked like monuments to better times. Sarah's old saddle still hung on the wall, covered in dust and spider webs. Then he heard it, a sound so soft it might have been wind through the rafters. A whimper. Max had reached the far corner, pawing frantically at a pile of loose straw. His whines were high-pitched, desperate, the sound he'd made in Afghanistan when they'd found survivors in bombed buildings. Michael ran, his boots slipping on the damp floor, flashlight beam bouncing wildly. What he saw when he reached the corner drove him to his knees. Emma lay curled in a nest of filthy straw, her pink camp t-shirt, the one she'd been wearing in the last photo Rebecca had sent, now gray with dirt and worse. Her small body was folded in on itself, knees to chest, arms wrapped around something Michael couldn't see. Her hair, once shining brown like her mother's, was matted with debris. Her feet were bare, soles black with grime. But it was her stillness that terrified him most. "Emma, baby, it's Daddy." She stirred slightly, eyes cracking open but not focusing. Her lips, cracked and bleeding, moved without sound. Michael gathered her into his arms, horrified by how light she felt, how her bones seemed to press through paper-thin skin. "Daddy." The word was less than a whisper. "I'm here, baby. I've got you." Her eyes found Max, and something like life flickered in them. He brought—" She uncurled slightly, revealing what she'd been clutching, a moldy piece of bread, the kind Rebecca baked fresh every morning. Dog teeth marks punctured one corner. "Max brought it," Emma whispered. "Every night. His food. Gave me. His food." Michael's vision blurred. He looked at the canine, at his protruding ribs and dull coat, and understood. For months, this war dog, this trained killer, had been sneaking his own rations to a starving child, keeping her alive the only way he could. "How long, Emma? How long have you been here?" Her eyes drifted closed. "Don't know. She comes. In the morning. Brings water sometimes. Hurts when I cry." Rage, white-hot and pure, flooded Michael's system. He'd felt it before, in combat, when insurgents used children as shields. But this was different. This was personal. This was his child. "We're leaving now," he said, standing with Emma in his arms. She weighed nothing, like holding a bird. That's when he saw it, wedged between two hay bales, barely visible. A small notebook with a unicorn on the cover. Emma's diary. He grabbed it with his free hand. Outside, Rebecca stood by her Mercedes, cell phone pressed to her ear. "Need to report a break-in. My husband is acting erratically." She stopped when she saw them emerge. Saw Emma's condition. For one moment, her mask slipped, revealing something cold and calculating beneath. "She's sick," Rebecca said quickly, recovering. "Mentally ill. She runs away, hides. I've been searching everywhere." "Stop." Michael's voice could have frozen hell itself. "Just stop." He moved toward his truck, but Rebecca stepped in front of him. "You can't just take her. I'm her legal guardian. I have papers." Max lunged. Not the controlled takedown of a trained canine, but the primal attack of a protector pushed beyond limits. Rebecca screamed, stumbling backward as 90 pounds of fury knocked her to the ground. Max didn't bite. He did something worse. He pinned her, growling inches from her face, while something small and black fell from his collar, a digital recorder, military grade, the kind used for reconnaissance, still blinking red, still recording. Michael stared at it, then at Max. "You smart son of a bitch." With Emma secure in one arm, he grabbed the device with his free hand and hit play. Rebecca's voice filled the night air. "Won't eat again until tomorrow. Maybe she'll be more cooperative then. That brat saw too much. Should have kept her mouth shut about the insulin." Rebecca's face went white. That's not admissible. You can't." 3 weeks." Emma's voice, tiny but clear, cut through everything. "Mommy was sick 3 weeks. She gave me medicine." "The bad medicine." Michael's world tilted. "What medicine, baby?" "In the juice, every morning. Made Mommy sleep." Emma's eyes found Rebecca with startling clarity. "She killed Mommy. I saw, in the kitchen, the needle." The diary fell open as Michael shifted Emma's weight. His eyes caught random entries in crayon and shaky pencil. "Day?" Max came again. "Good boy. Saved half for tomorrow. She locked me in for saying Daddy's name. Max barked all night. I think Mommy is in heaven. Max says she's safe now. Daddy comes home in 47 days. I'm counting. The entries went back months. Months. You've had her in there since—" "She's lying!" Rebecca's voice pitched high, desperate. "She's confused, traumatized by her mother's death. I tried to help." The recorder kept playing. Rebecca discussing insulin doses, mentioning Sarah's accidental overdose, complaining about the brat who wouldn't stop crying for her daddy, planning to claim Emma had run away once Michael deployed. "I need to get my daughter to a hospital," Michael said, voice deadly calm. "You can explain to the police why she's been living in a barn, why she's starving, why my dog has been keeping her alive with his own food." Rebecca pulled out her phone again. "My lawyer," Max growled, low and threatening. The phone clattered to the ground. "Here's what's going to happen," Michael said, moving toward his truck. "I'm taking my daughter to get medical help. You're going to stay right here until the police arrive. And if you move, if you run, if you so much as breathe wrong—" He looked at Max. "Guard." Max settled into position, eyes locked on Rebecca, every muscle tense. This wasn't the friendly family pet. This was a weapon, aimed and ready. Michael got Emma into the truck, fumbling with the keys as her breathing grew more labored. In the rearview mirror he saw Robert Mitchell emerging from his house with a shotgun, Martha beside him with a phone. "Figured you might need backup," Robert called. "Martha's got 911 on the line. We'll watch your six." The old soldier moved to stand beside Max, weapon ready. Rebecca, surrounded now, sank to her knees in the gravel. As Michael started the engine, Emma whispered something that shattered his heart into pieces. "Daddy, is it really you? Or am I dreaming again? It's me, baby. You're safe now. Promise?" "I promise." But even as he sped toward town, Michael could feel time running out. Emma's fever burned against his arm where he held her. Her breathing was shallow, rattled. In the mirror, he caught a glimpse of Max in the truck bed, maintaining overwatch even as they drove. 2 hours until dawn. But dawn might be too late. The speedometer hit 90 as they roared through the Tennessee darkness, racing against death itself. Behind them, red and blue lights began to paint the night sky as Robert's call brought help. But Michael only cared about the fading heartbeat of the child in his arms and the loyal soldier in the back who'd kept her alive when he couldn't. The truck's engine screamed as Michael pushed it beyond its limits, tearing through the pre-dawn darkness of rural Tennessee. Emma lay across the bench seat, her head in his lap, each breath a monumental effort. Her skin burned with fever, yet she shivered uncontrollably. In the rearview mirror, Max stood sentinel in the truck bed, his fur whipping in the wind, eyes fixed on the child he'd protected for so long. "Stay with me, baby," Michael whispered, one hand on the wheel, the other smoothing Emma's matted hair. "We're almost there." The emergency room entrance blazed with light as they screeched to a stop. Michael had called ahead, and a trauma team waited with a gurney. Dr. James Matthews, a tall man with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, took charge immediately. "How long has she been like this?" he asked as they rushed Emma inside. "I don't know. Found her in a barn. She's been imprisoned there. Months, maybe." The words tasted like ash in Michael's mouth. The medical team surrounded Emma, voices calm but urgent. IV lines, oxygen mask, rapid assessments. Michael tried to follow, but a nurse gently held him back. "Let us work. She's in good hands." Max had followed them in, ignoring hospital protocol. No one challenged the canine as he positioned himself where he could see Emma through the trauma room windows. That's when Michael noticed. Max was swaying on his feet. "Hey, boy." He knelt beside his partner, running hands over the dog's frame. What he found made his stomach turn. Infected wounds, hidden beneath the fur. Severe dehydration. Malnutrition worse than he'd realized. Max had been dying slowly, giving everything to keep Emma alive. "I need help here," Michael called. My dog, he needs a vet. Emergency. Dr. Matthews looked up from Emma. There's a veterinary emergency clinic 2 blocks south. Dr. Patricia Hayes. He stopped, face paling. Wait, did you say your daughter was imprisoned? By whom? My wife. Rebecca Harrison, she... Michael's phone rang. Robert Mitchell. Son, you need to know something. The sheriff's here, but your wife's got herself a lawyer already, some slick fella from Nashville. And there's another thing, she's been on the phone with someone at the hospital. Heard her mention a Dr. Hayes. Michael's blood turned to ice. Patricia Hayes? That's the one. Why? The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. He looked at Dr. Matthews. Is there a Dr. Patricia Hayes on staff here? Matthews nodded slowly. Internal medicine. She's actually on duty tonight. His expression changed as understanding dawned. Security. I need security at all entrances. No one in or out without ID check. But it was too late. Down the hall, a woman in a white coat walked briskly toward the medication room. Blonde hair pulled back, clipboard in hand. Everything normal, except for the way she kept glancing over her shoulder. That's her, a nurse whispered. Doctor. Hayes. Michael started forward, but Max moved first. Despite his weakness, the canine intercepted Hayes at the medication room door, blocking her path with a low growl. She stepped back, mask of professionalism slipping. Control your animal, she snapped. He seems to know you, Michael said, approaching slowly. Funny thing about dogs, they remember people. Scents. Voices. He pulled out the recorder. Want to hear what my wife said about you? Rebecca's recorded voice filled the hallway. Patricia says increase the insulin, make it look natural. She's done it before. 3 times, she said. Old patients, no family asking questions. Dr. Hayes went white. That's fabricated. Digital manipulation. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me. Deputy Carla Jensen appeared, having followed Michael from the scene. She was everything a small-town cop should be. Tough, fair, and absolutely incorruptible. We'll need to discuss your relationship with Rebecca Harrison. I want my lawyer. That's your right. But first, I'll need you to step away from the medication room. As security led Hayes away, Michael heard his name called. Dr. Matthews stood in the trauma room doorway. Your daughter's stabilizing, but she's asking for someone named Max. Michael looked at his canine, who was now leaning heavily against the wall. Doc, I need a favor. My dog saved her life, kept her alive for months. He needs help, but he won't leave her. Matthews studied the German shepherd, saw the devotion in those amber eyes. Bring him in. We'll work around him. They set up a veterinary IV stand beside Emma's bed. Max lay on a blanket on the floor, finally allowing his body to show its weakness as long as he could see Emma. She reached down, small fingers tangling in his fur. Good boy, she whispered through the oxygen mask. Such a good boy. Michael's phone buzzed. Text from Robert. Your wife's singing like a canary. Mencken, that's the lawyer, dropped her like a hot potato when he heard the recording. The next hour blurred together, police taking statements, Max receiving emergency fluids, Emma's fever finally breaking, and through it all, revelations that turned Michael's stomach. Rebecca and Patricia had met at a medical conference 2 years ago. Patricia, deep in gambling debt, had already begun her side business, helping elderly patients pass peacefully after their families upgraded their life insurance. Rebecca, working private hospice care, was the perfect partner. She could identify targets, gain trust, administer the medications. Sarah hadn't been there first, But she was supposed to be their last big score, a $1 million life insurance policy Michael had secured before deployment. The child wasn't part of the plan, Rebecca told police. Her perfect facade finally cracked. But she saw me preparing the injection. Heard me on the phone with Patricia. I had to. So you locked her in a barn to die, Deputy Jensen said flatly. I gave her water, food sometimes. I'm not a monster. No, Jensen replied. Monsters have more humanity. Back at the hospital, Emma slept fitfully, her hand never leaving Max's head. Michael sat between them, standing guard over both his soldiers. The recorder had captured months of evidence. Rebecca's discussions about dosages, complaints about that damn dog who kept interfering, plans to claim Emma had run away. She would have gotten away with it, Dr. Matthews said quietly, checking Emma's vitals. If not for your dog, the weight loss, the behavioral changes he must have shown, most people would have assumed it was age, grief, but he was starving himself to feed her. Michael looked at Max, IVs running into both front legs now, his breathing labored but steady. He made a promise, we both did, to protect her. Mr. Harrison? A new voice. Michael turned to find a woman in her 60s, silver hair and kind eyes. I'm Janet Morse, Child Protective Services. I understand there are some unusual circumstances here. Michael's jaw tightened. After everything, to lose Emma now. Relax, Janet said gently. I've been fully briefed. You're her father, you've just returned from deployment, and you uncovered a conspiracy that, frankly, makes me sick to my stomach. I'm here to help, not hinder, but we need to document everything properly. She knelt beside Emma's bed, careful not to disturb Max. Brave girl. And brave dog. Deputy Jensen filled me in on what he did, keeping her alive all those months. He gave her his food, Michael said, voice rough. Every night. While I was thousands of miles away playing soldier, he was here doing my job. You were serving your country. You trusted the wrong person. That's not a crime. Janet studied the German Shepherd. Though I have to say, you apparently trusted the right dog. Max's tail thumped weakly at the attention. Dawn light crept through the hospital windows, painting everything in soft gold. The night was over. Emma was safe, but as Michael watched poison drain from IV bags and cops fill the hallways, he knew the battle was just beginning. Daddy? Emma's voice, stronger now. Right here, baby. Is Max okay? Michael looked at the war dog who'd fought one last mission, this time on the home front. He's tired, sweetheart, but he's going to be fine. He told me you'd come. In my dreams. He said Daddy always keeps his promises. Outside, news vans were already gathering. The story of a soldier, his daughter, and the dog who saved her would make headlines. But in this room, there was only a broken family trying to heal, held together by the unwavering loyalty of a four-legged guardian angel. The war had followed Michael home in ways he'd never imagined. But so had his battle buddy, and sometimes that made all the difference. The monitors beeped in steady rhythm, a mechanical heartbeat filling the pediatric ICU. Michael sat between two beds, one official, one improvised. Emma lay small and fragile under white sheets, her chest rising and falling with each assisted breath. Beside her, on a veterinary gurney they'd wheeled in, Max fought his own battle, IVs feeding life back into his depleted body. 3 days. 3 days since that hellish night, and Michael had barely left this room. He dozed in the chair, showered in the staff bathroom, lived on cafeteria coffee and whatever food the nurses brought him. Time moved strangely here, sometimes crawling, sometimes jumping forward in confusing leaps. She's asking for you, Dr. Matthews said softly from the doorway. Emma's eyes were open, clearer than they'd been since admission. The ventilator was gone, replaced by a simple oxygen cannula. Progress, they called it. To Michael, it was a miracle. "Hey, sunshine," he whispered, taking her hand. "Daddy," her voice was raspy but real. "I dreamed about Mommy." Michael's chest tightened. "Yeah? What did she say?" "She said Max kept his promise. She said—" Emma's eyes welled with tears. "She said she tried to warn us about the bad lady, but the medicine made her too sleepy." The flashbacks hit without warning, as they had all week. Sarah in those final days, trying so hard to speak, to warn, but the words came out slurred, confused. They'd thought it was the cancer, the legitimate medications. Now he knew better. "Mrs. Mitchell brought my journals," Emma continued, pointing to a stack of worn notebooks on the bedside table. Martha Mitchell, Robert's wife, had retrieved them from the barn, years of a child's thoughts documented in crayon and pencil. Michael picked up the oldest one, dated a month after Sarah's death. The entries started normally enough, sad, grieving, but normal. Then they changed. "The new mommy doesn't like when I cry. She says Daddy won't come back if I'm bad. Max slept outside my door again. He knows I'm scared. She locked me in the closet today. I pretended Mommy was with me. The progression was horrifying." Rebecca's psychological torture had been systematic, calculated. Isolation, starvation, gaslighting. Making Emma believe her father had abandoned her, that her mother's death was somehow her fault. "Max tried to bite her when she hit me. Now he has to stay outside. I'm in the barn now. It's cold, but Max found me. He's so smart. I save half my sandwich from school for dinner. Sometimes she forgets to feed me. Then, after Michael deployed, day 1 without Daddy, she says I can come back inside if I'm quiet. I don't believe her. Day 15, Max brings food now. Good boy. Best boy. Day 47, I can count all my ribs like Mommy could before she went to heaven. Day 92, Max is getting skinny too. I tried to give him some back, but he won't eat it." Michael had to stop reading. Rage and guilt warred in his chest, making it hard to breathe. 4 months. His daughter had lived like an animal for 4 months while he'd been playing hero overseas. "It's not your fault." He looked up to find Deputy Jensen in the doorway holding 2 cups of coffee. She'd been by every day, building the case, keeping him updated. "I left her with a monster," Michael said flatly. "You left her with someone who fooled everyone." Rebecca Harrison had sterling references, no criminal record, even fooled Sarah. Jensen handed him coffee, black and strong. "But that dog of yours, he saw right through her." They both looked at Max, whose breathing had steadied over the past days. The vet, Dr. James had called in favors to get the best, said he'd make it. Malnutrition, infected wounds, severe dehydration, but nothing that time and care couldn't fix. "I've got updates," Jensen continued, pulling out her tablet. "Rebecca broke completely yesterday. Full confession." She and Patricia had quite the operation going. She showed him photos from Patricia's house, medical texts on insulin, financial records showing payments after elderly patients died, a journal documenting their projects. Sarah was supposed to be the big score. Patricia had gambling debts, nearly $500,000. Rebecca wanted out of hospice work, wanted to live the high life. Your wife's life insurance would have set them both up. "But Emma saw," Michael said. "Emma saw, and more than that, Sarah suspected. We found this in Rebecca's car." Jensen showed him a photo of a letter, Sarah's shaky handwriting. "If something happens to me, check my blood work for insulin. Rebecca is not who she seems. Protect Emma. Trust Max." "She never mailed it," Jensen said. Rebecca must have intercepted it. But Sarah was smart. She taught Emma their secret whistle, the one that makes Max go into protection mode. She hid money in Emma's stuffed animals. She even changed her will without telling Rebecca, leaving everything in trust for Emma with you as sole executor. She knew, Michael breathed. She knew she was being murdered. And she spent her last days setting up safeguards. The collar camera on Max. Sarah ordered it online 2 weeks before she died, had it delivered to Robert Mitchell, asked him to put it on Max without telling anyone. Michael thought of Robert, the quiet old veteran next door who'd minded his own business for 75 years until a child needed help. He'd been the one to sneak Max's food when Rebecca tried to starve the dog out. He'd been the one to call the police when he'd heard Emma crying in the barn one night, though Rebecca had convinced them it was just foxes. "He's here," Jensen added. "Robert, been sitting in the waiting room for 2 hours. Says he won't intrude, but wanted you to know the community's behind you." Community. Michael had forgotten what that meant. In Afghanistan, your unit was your community. Back home, he'd thought it was just him and Emma against the world. But as he walked to the waiting room, he found it packed. Robert and Martha Mitchell, Dr. Matthews and his wife, 3 veteran buddies who'd driven up from Georgia. Emma's teacher, Mrs. Caroline, clutching handmade cards from the entire 2nd grade, even the mailman, Tom Bradley, who'd noticed Emma hadn't been at the window anymore and had started asking questions. "We failed that little girl," Robert said simply, standing with difficulty on knees that had carried him across France in 1945. "All of us saw the signs and didn't act. But by God, we won't fail her again." Martha pressed a thermos into Michael's hands. "Soup. Real soup, not that hospital stuff. There's enough for you and Emma, and I brought some of my beef stew for Max. That dog's earned some real food." Over the next hours, they filtered through in small groups. Emma, still weak but alert, lit up at each visitor. Her teacher read stories. The veterans stood guard, unofficial, unasked, but unmovable. Martha knitted in the corner, creating what looked like the world's smallest dog sweater. It was Tom the mailman who brought the most unexpected gift. "Found this in the mail today," he said, handing Michael an official-looking envelope. "Figured you'd want it right away." Inside was a letter from the Army. Commendation for Max, officially recognizing his service both overseas and at home. And more. Immediate medical benefits, full coverage for his treatment. "Someone at the Pentagon saw the news," Tom explained. "Turns out saving a soldier's daughter counts as service to country." As the sun set on the 3rd day, painting the hospital room golden, Michael found himself back between the 2 beds. Emma slept peacefully, real sleep now, not the unconsciousness of trauma. Max dozed beside her, his breathing matching hers in perfect rhythm. Dr. Matthews made his evening rounds. "She's healing remarkably fast. Children are resilient, and having Max here—" He shook his head in wonder. "I've never seen anything like it. Their vitals actually synchronize. When she's anxious, he calms her. When he's in pain, she soothes him." "They kept each other alive," Michael said. "More than that, they gave each other hope. In my 20 years of medicine, I've learned that hope is sometimes the best medicine we have." Later, as the hospital settled into its nighttime quiet, Michael pulled out Sarah's journal, one Martha had found in the attic, hidden where Rebecca never thought to look. The last entry was dated 3 days before her death. "My hands shake too much now. The insulin she doesn't know I know about makes everything hard, but I need to write this. Michael, if you find this, know that I fought. Know that I'm not leaving by choice. I've taught Emma our whistle. I've shown Max what to do. I've hidden what proof I could find. Rebecca thinks she's won. She smiles when she injects me, tells me I'll be at peace soon. But she doesn't understand. A mother's love doesn't die. It just changes form. I'll protect our baby, even from heaven. And Max, faithful, brilliant Max, he understands. He knows what I can't say aloud. Tell Emma I'm always with her. Tell her that love is stronger than death, stronger than evil, stronger than all the darkness in the world. And tell her that sometimes angels have fur and 4 legs and hearts too loyal to ever give up. I love you both. Forever. Sarah. Michael wiped his eyes, then read the passage aloud. Emma stirred, reached for Max and smiled in her sleep. The dog's tail thumped once, twice, then stilled. Outside, the first stars appeared in the Tennessee sky. Somewhere, Rebecca and Patricia sat in separate cells, their empire of death finally ended. But here, in this small room, life went on. Broken, but healing. Wounded, but whole. A family bound not by blood alone, but by sacrifice, loyalty, and the kind of love that drives a starving dog to share his food with a frightened child, night after night, until help finally came. The war had indeed come home, but so had the warriors, all of them. The morning sun cast long shadows across the hospital parking lot as Michael faced the hardest decision of his life. In his hand, a medical estimate that might as well have been written in blood. Max needed surgery. Extensive, expensive surgery for the damage his body had sustained during months of starvation and untreated injuries. The number at the bottom would wipe out everything. Emma's college fund, the house savings, the emergency reserves. In his other hand, his phone displayed a text from Rebecca's attorney. A deal. Drop the criminal charges, accept a private settlement, and walk away with enough money to cover everything. Max's surgery, Emma's therapy, a fresh start. Daddy? He turned to find Emma in her wheelchair, pushed by Nurse Helen. 10 days since the barn, and she could walk short distances now, but the chair was for longer trips through the hospital. Max lay on a rolling bed beside her, too weak to walk, but alert, always alert when Emma was near. "Hey, sunshine, you're supposed to be in bed." "Max was lonely," she said simply, "and I had something important to tell you." Michael knelt beside the wheelchair. "What's that, baby?" Emma pulled out her old phone, the one Sarah had given her for emergencies, hidden in her stuffed elephant all these months. The screen was cracked, battery held in with tape, but it worked. She pressed play on a video. The image was shaky, filmed from ground level through barn slats. Rebecca's voice, clear and cold. "I should have used more insulin on your mother. Would have been faster. But you'll be gone soon enough. No food until you learn to keep quiet about what you saw." The video shifted. Another day. Rebecca again, but now with someone else. Patricia Hayes. "How long until she stops being a problem?" Patricia asked. "Winter will take care of it. Hypothermia looks natural. Runaway child, tragic accident. Michael won't be back for months. And if the dog keeps interfering, rat poison in his food, already started." The video cut to Max, filmed through a crack in the barn wall. The German shepherd sniffing his bowl, then deliberately knocking it over, spilling poisoned food onto the ground. Smart. So impossibly smart. More clips. Dozens of them. Emma had documented everything she could reach, everything she could see. Rebecca counting money. Patricia discussing previous successes. Names, dates, methods. A confession spread across months of secret recording. "I wanted evidence for when you came home," Emma said quietly. "Mommy taught me. She said if someone hurts you, you document everything. Make it so they can't lie later." Michael stared at his 7-year-old daughter, this tiny warrior who'd fought a battle he couldn't imagine. "Emma, it's all backed up," she continued. Mommy showed me how to use cloud storage. Password is MaxIsMyHeroTone23. There's more, Daddy. So much more. He looked at the phone, at the settlement offer, at the medical bills. Then at Max, who watched him with those knowing amber eyes, the dog who'd refused poisoned food, who'd starved himself to feed Emma, who'd recorded evidence on his collar camera without understanding why, only that it might matter. "Make the call," Michael said to himself. Then louder to Emma, "Helen, can you take Emma back to the room? I have some phone calls to make." The first call was to Deputy Jensen. "I have something you need to see, and I'm not taking any deals." The second was to a number Robert Mitchell had given him. Retired JAG lawyer, veteran advocate, bulldog in a courtroom. Mary Rodriguez answered on the second ring. "Mr. Harrison, I've been expecting your call. Robert filled me in, pro bono, of course. No soldier's child goes through what Emma did on my watch." The third call was harder. "Doctor James Matthews, to discuss Max's surgery. Without it, he has maybe 6 months. With it," the vet paused, "he could have years. But Michael, the cost, schedule it." "How will you?" "Just schedule it. I'll figure it out." He wouldn't, though, not alone. But as he walked back to Emma's room, he found he wasn't alone at all. The hallway was crowded. Robert and Martha, the veterans from Georgia, Miss Caroline and half the school staff, Tom the mailman, even old Father McKenna from the church Sarah used to attend. "What is this?" Michael asked. Robert stepped forward, a wooden box in his weathered hands. "This is a community remembering what matters. We failed that little girl once. Not again." He opened the box. Cash, checks, crumpled bills and neatly written donations. A fundraiser organized in days, spreading through the town like wildfire. 15,000 so far, Martha said. More coming. The Ladies' Auxiliary is having a bake sale. The VFW is organizing a benefit dinner. Tom here got his whole postal route to chip in. "I can't," Michael started. "You can and you will," Father McKenna interrupted, firm but kind. "That dog did what we should have done. Least we can do is help save him." Mary Rodriguez pushed through the crowd, tablet in hand. "More good news. I've been reviewing Emma's recordings. This isn't just a criminal case anymore. This is RICO territory, organized crime, crossing state lines. Rebecca and Patricia are looking at federal charges, no deals, no settlements. And the civil suit," she smiled, sharp as a blade. "Let's just say Emma's college fund will be very healthy." In the room, Emma sat on her bed, Max's head in her lap. She was reading to him from one of her books, something about a brave knight and his faithful companion. Max's tail thumped weakly at the good parts. "Surgery is tomorrow," Michael told them. "Dr. James says it'll take 6 hours. Maybe more." Emma nodded solemnly. "Max is brave. He'll be okay." She leaned down, whispered something in the dog's ear. His tail wagged harder. That night, as the hospital settled into quiet, Michael found himself unable to sleep. He walked the halls, ending up in the chapel. Empty, silent, lit only by candles people had left burning. He wasn't a praying man, not anymore, not since Sarah. But he sat anyway. "She knew," he said to the darkness. "Sarah knew everything. Set it all up. The camera, the whistle commands, teaching Emma to document things. She knew she was going to die, and she spent her last days building a safety net for our daughter." A hand touched his shoulder. Father McKenna, because of course the old priest was still here at midnight. "Sarah came to me," the priest said, settling beside him with creaking knees. 3 weeks before she passed. Wanted to confess, but not her own sins. She was afraid of what she knew, afraid for Emma. I told her to go to the police, but she said she needed proof first. Said she was teaching Emma and Max to be each other's guardians. I should have been here. You were serving. She understood that. What she didn't understand was how evil can wear such a pretty face. None of us did. Father McKenna pulled out a small envelope. She left this. Asked me to give it to you when you were ready. Inside, Sarah's handwriting, steadier than her final notes. My love, if you're reading this, then my worst fears came true. But if you're reading this, then my best hopes did too. You're home. Emma survived, and Max did what I trained him to do. I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid to leave Emma unprotected. But I know you, Michael Harrison. I know you'll move heaven and earth for our daughter. And I know Max. That dog would face down the devil himself for her. The evidence is everywhere. I made sure of it. In Emma's elephant, in Max's collar, in the cloud account I set up. Rebecca thinks she's clever, but evil makes people sloppy. Save our daughter, save our dog. And remember, love doesn't end with death. It just changes form. Forever yours, Sarah. Michael read it twice, then folded it carefully. She turned dying into a battle plan. She was a soldier's wife, Father McKenna said simply. She learned from the best. The next morning came too soon. Max was wheeled away for surgery at 7 sharp, Emma clutching his paw until the last moment. Be brave, she whispered. Like Daddy in Afghanistan, like Mommy in heaven. Be brave and come back to me. The surgery stretched longer than expected. 6 hours became 7, then 8. Emma refused to leave the waiting room, coloring picture after picture for Max's recovery room. Michael paced. The community filled the space, bringing food, offering prayers, sharing stories of their own faithful dogs. At hour 9, Dr. James emerged, exhausted but smiling. He's a fighter, he said. Worse damage than we thought. Old injuries from protecting Emma, infections from the poisoned food he refused to eat. But he's stable. He's going to make it. The cheer that went up could probably be heard in Nashville. Emma burst into tears. The first real healing tears she'd cried since the barn. Michael held her as she sobbed, feeling his own eyes burn. They were allowed a brief visit. Max lay still, breathing tube still in place, monitors tracking his vitals. But when Emma whispered, "I'm here, Max. You're such a good boy," his tail moved, just once, just enough. That evening, as the sun set over Tennessee hills, Deputy Jensen arrived with news. Patricia flipped. Full cooperation. She's given us 11 names, elderly patients over 3 years. All ruled natural causes at the time. All had their medications adjusted by Patricia. All had Rebecca as their hospice nurse. 11 families who need answers, Michael said, and they'll get them. This is bigger than we thought. The FBI is taking over. Rebecca and Patricia are looking at life without parole. Multiple counts of murder for hire, conspiracy, fraud. And with Emma's recordings, Jensen shook her head. Your daughter built a better case than most prosecutors I know. Later, alone with Emma as she prepared for bed, Michael asked the question that had haunted him. How did you know to record everything? Emma looked at him with Sarah's eyes, old beyond their years. Mommy said bad people think children are stupid, that they'll say things in front of kids they'd never say in front of adults. She said if anyone ever hurt me, I should be like Max, quiet, watching, remembering everything. You were so brave. I was scared, Emma admitted, every day. But Max was scared too, and he still came. Every night, even when his paws were bleeding from the walk, even when he was so hungry he could barely stand. He came because he promised Mommy. So I had to be brave too. That's what family does. Michael pulled her close, this miraculous child who'd survived the unsurvivable. Tomorrow would bring more challenges. Recovery for both Emma and Max. Trials, testimony, the long road back from trauma. But tonight, they were together. Broken, but healing. A soldier, his daughter, and somewhere down the hall, a German shepherd who'd kept every promise, paid every price, and proven that love sometimes walks on four legs and speaks in the language of sacrifice. The war was over. They were home. The video played on the courtroom's large screen, grainy but clear enough. Sarah Harrison, propped up in her hospital bed at home, speaking directly to the camera with the deliberate care of someone fighting through a fog of forced medication. My name is Sarah Elizabeth Harrison. Today is September 15th, 2023. I am of sound mind, though my body is failing. If you're watching this, it means I was right about what's happening to me. The packed courtroom held its breath. Michael sat in the front row, Emma beside him, her small hand in his. Max lay at their feet, thinner than before his ordeal, surgical scars hidden beneath his coat, but alert and steady. The prosecution had successfully argued for his presence as a certified support animal for Emma's testimony. On screen, Sarah continued. I am being systematically poisoned with insulin by Rebecca Sullivan, my hospice nurse, in conspiracy with Dr. Patricia Hayes. I have documented evidence hidden throughout our home. I have trained our dog, Max, to protect our daughter Emma when I'm gone. I pray my husband Michael finds this before it's too late. The video had been hidden in Emma's teddy bear, a final fail-safe Sarah had sewn inside with her failing hands. But it was what came next that made even the seasoned judge lean forward. Emma, my sweet girl, if you're watching this with Daddy, remember our secret whistle. Remember what I taught you about staying quiet and smart. Remember that Max will always protect you. And remember that Mommy loves you forever, even from heaven. Sarah looked directly at the camera then, her eyes fierce despite the exhaustion. Rebecca, Patricia, I know what you are. I know what you've done to others. Mr. and Mrs. Chen, George Fitzgerald, Dorothy Palmer. I have their names, I have the dates, I have the patterns. You thought a dying woman couldn't fight back. You were wrong. The prosecutor, a formidable woman named Diane Curtis, paused the video. Your Honor, this video was authenticated by 3 separate forensic experts. The metadata confirms the date. The medical records show Sarah Harrison's blood sugar levels that day were dangerously low, consistent with insulin overdose, not her documented medical conditions. From the defendant's table, Rebecca had gone pale beneath her carefully applied makeup. Her orange jumpsuit was a far cry from the designer clothes she'd worn while playing the grieving widow. Beside her, Patricia Hayes sat rigid, her medical license already revoked, her reputation in ruins. Does the defense wish to cross-examine? Judge Harrison asked. No relation, despite the name, just one of those cosmic ironies. Rebecca's attorney, no longer the slick Nashville lawyer but a harried public defender, stood. No questions, Your Honor. The prosecution called their next witness. The state calls Emma Harrison. Michael's heart clenched as his 7-year-old daughter walked to the witness stand. She wore the blue dress Martha Mitchell had bought her hair in careful braids. Max rose to follow, stopping only when Emma reached the witness box. Emma, Diane Curtis began gently, can you tell us, in your own words, what happened after your mommy went to heaven? Emma's voice was small, but clear. The new mommy said I had to be good or Daddy wouldn't come home. She said if I told anyone about the medicine I saw her give Mommy, she'd make sure Daddy's plane crashed. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Michael's hands clenched into fists. What did you do then? What Mommy taught me. Be quiet. Be smart. Document everything. Emma pulled out her battered notebook. I wrote it all down, drew pictures when I couldn't spell the words, and I made videos on my phone. For the next hour, Emma testified with a composure that broke hearts. She described months of escalating abuse, being locked in closets, having food withheld, being moved to the barn when she wouldn't stop crying about Mommy. And through it all, Max's devotion. "He brought me his food," Emma said, tears finally coming. "Every night, even when he was hungry, even when his paws bled from walking on the gravel. He came because he promised Mommy." "Objection," the defense attorney tried. "The witness can't know what an animal promised." "Overruled," Judge Harrison said firmly. "The child is testifying to her observations and her mother's statements. Continue, Emma." Emma looked directly at Rebecca then, 7 years old, but carrying the weight of terrible knowledge. "You killed my Mommy. You tried to kill me, but Max wouldn't let you. And now everyone knows what you did." The defense's cross-examination was brief and gentle. Even they knew better than to attack a child witness, especially one with video evidence supporting every claim. Michael testified next, his military bearing evident as he detailed discovering his daughter in the barn. The photos were entered into evidence. Emma's emaciated form, the squalid conditions, Max's deteriorated state. Several jurors wept openly. Then came the parade of experts. Forensic accountants who'd traced the money. Rebecca and Patricia had split nearly $2 million from their victims over 3 years. Medical examiners who'd reviewed the suspicious deaths, finding patterns of insulin in preserved tissue samples. FBI agents who'd uncovered a network of similar operations in 3 states. "This wasn't mere murder," Diane Curtis said in her closing argument. "This was industrialized evil. Predators in white coats targeting the vulnerable, the dying, the trusting. They thought no one would notice. They thought no one would care. They didn't count on a dying mother's love, a child's courage, or a dog's loyalty." The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. "On the count of murder in the first degree, we find the defendant Rebecca Sullivan guilty. On the count of conspiracy to commit murder, guilty. On the count of attempted murder of a minor child, guilty." The verdicts continued. 17 counts for Rebecca, 23 for Patricia, whose medical knowledge had made her the more dangerous of the pair. Life without parole for both. As the bailiffs led them away, Rebecca turned one last time. Her eyes met Michael's, and for a moment the mask dropped entirely. What he saw there was nothing. No remorse, no humanity, just cold calculation even in defeat. Outside the courthouse, the October air was crisp with autumn's arrival. Reporters surrounded them, but Mary Rodriguez and the veterans formed a protective wedge, guiding Michael and Emma to the car. Max walked beside them, his gait steady despite the lingering effects of his ordeal. "Mr. Harrison, how does it feel? Emma, will you—" "Max, can you tell us about—" Michael ignored them all, focusing on getting his daughter safely away. But Emma stopped at the car door, turning back to the crowd. "I want to say something," she said quietly. The reporters fell silent. "My Mommy saved me even after she went to heaven. Max saved me by being brave when I was scared. Daddy saved me by coming home. But there are other kids out there who need saving too. Kids whose mommies and daddies can't help. So please, if you see something wrong, don't wait. Don't assume someone else will help. Be like Max. Help anyway." In the car, driving away from the courthouse and toward home, Emma leaned against Max in the back seat. The German shepherd, finally able to rest without vigilance, dozed with his head in her lap. "Daddy?" Emma asked. "What happens now?" Michael met her eyes in the rearview mirror. "Now we heal, baby. All of us. Together." That evening they visited Sarah's grave for the first time since the trial began. The headstone was simple: Sarah Elizabeth Harrison, beloved wife, devoted mother, forever brave. Emma placed a drawing on the grave, their family, including Max, under a rainbow. "We did it, Mommy. The bad people can't hurt anyone else now." Max sat beside the headstone, tail still, ears forward, as if listening to something only he could hear. Then he turned to Emma, nuzzling her hand gently. "She says she's proud of us," Emma whispered. "All of us." Michael didn't question it. After everything, he'd learned that love speaks in languages beyond words, that loyalty transcends death, and that sometimes the smallest voices carry the greatest truths. As they walked back to the car, Max between them, the sun broke through the clouds. It painted the cemetery in gold, transforming a place of endings into something that felt almost like a beginning. The war was over. Justice was served. And a little girl who'd survived the unsurvivable had reminded a watching world that heroes come in all forms, some in uniform, some in fur, and some in the fierce love of a mother who refused to let death stop her from protecting her child. Tomorrow would bring new challenges: therapy sessions, nightmares, the slow work of rebuilding. But tonight they were together, and that was enough. Easter morning dawned bright and clear over the Tennessee hills, painting the old barn in shades of gold and promise. Where once there had been darkness and despair, now children's laughter rang out across the fields. The transformation was complete. Sarah's place had officially opened its doors. Michael stood on the porch of the renovated barn, coffee in hand, watching Emma lead a group of children in an Easter egg hunt. She moved with confidence now, the haunted look gone from her eyes, replaced by something harder won but more precious: peace. "She's come so far," Robert Mitchell said, joining him on the porch. The old veteran had become a fixture at Sarah's place, teaching woodworking to kids who needed to build something with their hands while rebuilding their lives. "6 months," Michael murmured. "Hard to believe it's only been 6 months." Inside the barn, where Emma had once huddled in terror, therapy rooms now offered hope. The main area had been converted into a gathering space, walls lined with children's artwork, butterflies emerging from cocoons, flowers growing through cracks, phoenixes rising, and everywhere drawings of a German shepherd with angel wings. Max himself lay in a patch of sunlight near the entrance, no longer the war dog or the desperate guardian, but something gentler, a healer. His coat had grown back glossy, the surgical scars hidden. The cancer Dr. James had found was in remission, bought time precious beyond measure. "Therapy Dog of the Year," Martha Mitchell announced, brandishing a certificate from the State Veterinary Association. "Our Max is officially famous." But Max paid no attention to fame. His amber eyes tracked Emma as she helped a younger child, a boy named Timothy, whose story echoed hers, found locked in a basement by his father, returning from deployment. Max rose, slowly now but steadily, and padded over to the boy. Without prompting, he lay down beside him, offering his presence like a gift. "He always knows," Emma said softly, appearing at Michael's elbow. "Just like with me. He knows who needs him most." The opening ceremony was simple but moving. The whole town had come: Deputy Jensen in her dress uniform, Dr. Matthews with his family, Miss Caroline and Emma's entire class, even some families from the trial, other victims of Rebecca and Patricia's evil, finding solace in seeing something beautiful rise from the ashes. Father McKenna offered a blessing, his words carrying across the crowd: "From darkness, light. From sorrow, joy. From one mother's love and one dog's loyalty, a haven for all who suffer." Emma stepped forward then. no longer the terrified child from the barn, but a young advocate. My mommy always said that love doesn't end. It just changes form. She loved me enough to make sure I'd be safe even after she was gone. Max loved me enough to starve so I could eat. Daddy loved me enough to never stop looking. She paused, looking out at the assembled crowd. But there are kids out there who don't have a Max, who don't have anyone watching over them. That's why we built this place, so no child has to be alone in the dark. The ribbon cutting was done with oversized scissors, Emma and Max together, her hand on the handles, his paw placed gently on top. The crowd erupted in applause as the ribbon fell away. Inside, families explored the facilities. Counseling rooms painted in soft colors, a library full of books about healing and hope, an art therapy studio where pain could be transformed into beauty, and in the center, a memorial wall. Sarah's photo at the top, surrounded by pictures of other children who'd been saved, other dogs who'd been heroes. "Look, Daddy," Emma pointed to a new addition. Someone had anonymously donated a bronze plaque in memory of all the guardian angels, both human and four-legged, who never leave their post. As the day wound down and families headed home with plates of Martha's legendary cookies, Michael found himself alone with Emma and Max in the main room. Sunlight streamed through windows that had once been boarded up, painting rainbows on the walls. "Mom would be proud," Emma said simply. Max's tail thumped agreement. In the distance, spring thunder rumbled, not threatening now, but promising rain for new growth. Michael pulled his daughter close, feeling Max lean against their legs. "She is proud, Sunshine. I know she is." Sarah's place would go on to help hundreds of children over the years. But it began here, on an Easter Sunday, with a soldier who came home, a daughter who survived the impossible, and a German shepherd who proved that angels sometimes have 4 legs and hearts too loyal to break. In this family, they saved each other, and in saving each other, they saved so many more. Some stories end with period. This one ends with a promise that love endures, loyalty transcends, and even in the darkest barns, hope can find a way to bloom. Dear friends, if this story touched your heart, you understand what we've lost in our modern world. Neighbors who watch out for each other, communities that rally around a child in need, and the unconditional love that asks nothing in return. Many of us remember when America was like that, when we knew every family on our street and doors stayed unlocked because trust ran deeper than fear. This story reminds us that such goodness still exists, sometimes in the most unexpected places, in the loyal heart of an old dog who refused to abandon a child even when it meant sacrificing his own life. How many of us have known that kind of devotion, whether from a faithful pet who stayed by our side through life's darkest hours, or a neighbor who showed up when everyone else looked away? I'd love to hear from you. What faithful companion, human or animal, has been your guardian angel when you needed one most? And do you believe our communities can return to being places where no child suffers in silence because someone is always watching, always caring? Please share your thoughts below. Your stories matter, and they might just remind someone else that angels still walk among us, sometimes on 4 legs, sometimes on 2, but always with hearts full of love.